company it is! Red right back with you to review the latest pro wrestling news and results as part of Wrestling! Reds! Baby! Yeah! Let's get into it on a Saturday morning. It is Versus, a little bit delayed. Was hoping to get this out on St. Patrick's Day yesterday, on Friday, as it were. I decided to end up doing a little bit of a different thing for St. Patrick's Day. Got out of town, went to some movies, checked out some good flicks. So, as it were, got a little bit delayed on this one, but we are here on a Saturday morning to wrap up the week in Impact Wrestling, the week in Ring of Honor Wrestling, as part of Versus, the head-to-head battle on a Thursday night where we see both shows have a 2-hour episode each and every week. We run it head-to-head to see how each segment compared against each other, how each match. We're going quarter hours here, so we go in 8 quarter-hour segments. These are 15-minute segments. Now, I have to mention this as we're on our third week now. Versus something to note. These shows are a bit different in presentation because Impact Wrestling on Access TV actually has commercial breaks. Ring of Honor on Honor Club does not. So, by that information, he almost gives Ring of Honor kind of an advantage because they have more content on each quarter hour. So take note of that as well. The matches are usually a little bit longer on Ring of Honor in general. That's a general statement. There's a little bit of a skewed competition here in a sense where Ring of Honor basically kind of almost has a handicap because they have the full 15 minutes full of content, where Impact has probably about 12 minutes of content per segment. So keep that in mind as we go quarter hour to quarter hour. At the end, we'll tally up the quarter hour wins for each side, and then we'll determine from there where we have a winner this week for Versus Ring of Honor versus Impact. This is from the March 16th episode. Let's get into first general thoughts on Impact, and then I'll start going into the quarter hours for Impact. I thought a decent show. Nothing compared to the last 2 weeks. The last 2 weeks were primarily taped from the Saturday Vegas show. If you remember, I was at all those events there. We dropped all kinds of content from these Impact episodes. So a lot of the stuff you're seeing on these shows were little clips and snippets dropped for content here on Wrestling Rants just about a couple weeks ago. This episode definitely, like I said, felt a little bit lesser than the previous two because this was the start of the Sunday taping where the majority of this content was all through Sunday. And that Sunday taping was not nearly as strong as I thought the Saturday was. So let's get into it. It starts out with PCO out in the desert resurrecting. I liked these little clipped vignettes that they were showing of PCO rising from the desert. Coming back to Las Vegas, slowly walking, trudging down with a shovel. This was right out of some sort of old school horror movie, almost in a way. It was a nice little touch that I liked seeing Impact doing there. Opening match was Jonathan Gresham and Speedball Mike Bailey against DK. This was a weird, thrown together one, I felt, especially when I was watching this live at the Samstown Live. Obviously, Bailey and Gresham are continuing their program. We'll talk about that in a little moment. But just to have them tag up in a random match against DK like this was very, very unique. I will say that much. I don't know if I really got into it completely. Also on this segment, there was a promo by Josh Alexander and Rich Swann and Kazarian as they were setting up the match with Bullet Club for the main event tonight. That was one of the better matches on the Sunday tapings for sure. That ended up being the main event on this show. Also, Giselle Shaw did a promo in the back, which got interrupted by Johnny Swinger and Zicky Dice. That led into some illogical reasoning to make the match with Jay Vidal and Johnny Swinger. Swinger apparently thought Jay Vidal was not even a wrestler, and was just kind of a second-hand manager for Giselle Shaw. So he thought it'd be an easy win. And keep in mind that Swinger's still trying to get this elusive first win in this new winning streak gimmick that they're doing with him. And yeah, so he kind of fooled himself in that promo, leading to the match with Vidal and Swinger later in the show. Over in Ring of Honor, let's get a general thought on the show. I thought this, it wasn't as strong as last week's. I thought it was right up there with that first week action. They're starting to kind of get a flow and kind of a pace to the show. I have to say this Ring of Honor concept at this point kind of feels like just AEW Dark version 3.0. I don't know, just the presentation as well is a bit like that, but there are some vignettes, there are some promos in between the matches that at least separated a little bit from feeling like AEW Dark, because normally when I watch AEW Dark, it's just like match after match after match with really nothing else in it, where Ring of Honor has that similar vibe too, but they're starting to get a little bit of a flow better where they're having wrestlers come out and challenging other people for matches the following week. There's a lot of backstage promos. There's some looking back at Ring of Honor history vignettes, things like that. So that stuff I like. And so hopefully they'll keep adding that kind of stuff to kind of differentiate Ring of Honor from AEW Dark and any of those other AEW properties. So to open up Ring of Honor, we had a pretty excellent Proving Ground match. That is the basically non-title matches where if the competitor wins or at least goes to a 10-minute time limit with the champion, then they will get a championship match. And this one was pretty excellent. Claudio Castagnoli against Willie Mack, Chocolate Thunder, one of my favorite wrestlers in the industry. And damn, they went pretty good for about a good 7-8 minutes in this one. Claudio did win with an uppercut, kind of out of nowhere, but this was good shit, folks. Definitely good stuff especially for a really short match as well. Also on this quarter-hour segment, they started up Mike Bennett and Dante Martin, which kind of rolled into the next quarter hour. So we'll just say about half of that match was in this quarter hour. First quarter hour, I'm definitely going to go probably Claudio, Willie Mack, and Ring of Honor for the first quarter hour win on that first quarter hour. How many times can I say quarter hours on this episode of Versus? I guess we'll find out. Quarter hour number 2, we got Steve Maclin and Heath Slater on Impact. And it was okay. It was okay. I can't get into Steve Maclin. I just can't get into the dude. I don't know. There's something drastically missing with him. Over on Ring of Honor, we finished off that Dante Martin-Mike Bennett match, which was pretty good. Dante Martin with the win. Not a bad match. He gave it time. They gave it a decent amount of time to really kind of develop and marinate that match. Also, we saw Daivari and Slim J against Metalik and Blake Christian. This was off of an angle last week with Metalik against Ari Daivari. Metalik and Christian got the win, and it looks like they're moving on up into the 6-man ranks, which we get into a little bit on this episode. They built that part pretty well, I thought, for these guys. We'll talk about it in a second. So this one, Maclin and Heath over the Daivari, Slim J. I'm going to go Ring of Honor again on that one. I liked that tag match, and I liked the last couple minutes of Bennett and Dante Martin as well. A lot more than Maclin and Heath, that's for damn sure. Got some promos back on Impact. PCO, another small little promo. He's slowly making his way back to Vegas. The Death Dolls did a promo where basically Jessica was being taken out of the team tonight against the Coven for reasons about being scared about witchcraft or something like that. I guess that's the Coven's gimmick now. And Rosemary and Ty instead were the team that took on the Coven later on in the show, which we'll talk about. There's actually a title change on that one. Also, Swinger against Jai Vidal. Just a total comedy match. Not a very good one at that. I remember seeing this in the arena. My highlight was the entrance of Swinger. That was all I got. Deon Purrazzo was involved in this stuff. It's kind of a mess of a match, to be quite honest. Over on Ring of Honor, we had a nice Mark Briscoe and Samoa Joe video package. to build up their match at Supercard Honor. I thought really well done. They talked about all the history with these guys, showed old footage from Ring of Honor stuff. I loved it. They need to do more of that on the show to bridge the history and the nostalgia of Ring of Honor. Eddie Kingston also took on Jeeves Kay in a pretty quick match as well. Once again, I gotta go. Ring of Honor, 3 in a row on the quarter hours here. We go to the top of the first hour here in this fourth quarter hour. This is all promo stuff on Impact. They took like a long lull of in-ring on Impact this week. And this quarter hour segment just had nothing but promos. We had a long-winded one with Sami Callihan Design, talking about the stuff with the storyline with Callihan and these steps that he's taking. They explained why they cost him the match against Rhino last week. You just can't get into the storyline at all. It's so vanilla and so flat. Mickie James, Tommy Dreamer did a promo. They're going to be working against Masha Slamovich and Bully Ray next week, and what ends up being a pretty solid mixed tag. I gotta give you guys a heads up on that. It was at the Sunday taping in Vegas. Jordan Grace got involved in this promo as well, wanting to challenge Mickie James at Sacrifice. That match is set. She wants to make sure that she's in good ring shape for that show, so she was going to kind of look out for Mickie James and Dreamer in this mixed tag. There was a bit of a heat going on with Mickie James and Grace to lead into that match coming up at Sacrifice. So they kind of killed two birds with one stone in this promo a little bit. Over on Ring of Honor, we had a couple actually quick matches in this segment comparatively against no matches on Impact. This is interesting. Hyan came in against Athena. Hyan used to be in Ring of Honor a couple of years ago for a shot or two, I recall. That was a decent match. It was kind of more or less a squash. Athena went hard as a motherfucker on Hyan. But it was a good little squash, good little short match. There was a promo in the back where Blake Christian and Metalik announced AR Fox was the third person in their new small little trios faction, and they're gunning for the trios title, and they made that be known in this promo. They addressed that later on the show, actually in the next quarter hour, I believe. We also had Silas Young coming back in Ring of Honor against jobber Marcus Cross. So it was pretty much a job match as well. I would probably have to give, once again, Ring of Honor, so far, 4 quarter hours to nothing on Impact. Oof, God. Over in Impact, to kick off that second hour, we had an Eddie Edwards promo, which was pretty decent, and a little angle with PCO returning back from the desert. Kenny King showed up, attacking PCO, forging that alliance again with Eddie Edwards from Team No Honor. They're kind of back and working together. All kinds of stuff in this segment. There was a layout job, PCO resurrected, all this kind of stuff. So pretty much just furthering that storyline. I'm guessing that Sacrifice we're going to have PCO, Eddie Edwards, maybe in a coffin match or something like that. Wouldn't shock me. Over on Ring of Honor, the Silas Young match with Marcus Cross was just wrapping up. He actually challenged somebody for a future match, and out came Shane Taylor of all guys. So that match is set for a future episode of Ring of Honor, I believe maybe even next week. Athena did a promo in the back challenging Yuka Sakazaki for Supercard of Honor. That should be an excellent match. We also got the Embassy, again, they're in a 6-man tag title match against Dalton Castle and the Boys, which rolled in slightly into the next quarter hour, but the majority of that match was on this quarter hour. I will give Impact quarter hour on this one, just because I thought that promo by Eddie Edwards was decent. I liked the angle with PCO. It was okay. The Kenny King showing up as a surprise reveal as Eddie Edwards kind of guy that took out PCO and ran him over in the desert. That was the big reveal on that one. So I'll give Impact the edge on that quarter hour segment there. Next quarter hour, we got over on Impact an interesting appearance of a former WWE star. Vladimir Kozlov showed up here randomly in a segment with Santino. I couldn't say his name. They kind of did a play on that, talking about the trademark stuff and all that, whatnot. So apparently he still legally has that trademark owned by WWE or something. So he did a shot, showed up, kind of left. I guess he was maybe part of the collector's show in Vegas. I don't know why he was there. I did not see him at the collector's show either, but it's very possible he was part of it, and that's why they decided to get him in for a quick shot here. Also, this promo led with Santino and Kozlov led to a thing with Dirty Dango and Joe Hendry, where Santino set up a match with Brian Myers and Moose against Hendry and Dango for next week also. So I think as well they set up Joe Hendry and Brian Myers at Sacrifice for the digital title on this segment. Then kicked off the Knockouts tag title match, Coven, that's Kylan King and Taylor Wilde against the Death Dolls. We did see a title shot, or title change here, not title shot, a title change all the way. The Coven beat the Death Dolls. Reason basically was because Taya Valkyrie was leaving the company. She just showed up on AEW this past Wednesday. So this was like her last shot in Impact, and they jobbed the belts on. In fact, Taya even did the job to Kylan King. She made Kylan King look strong on the way out, which I thought was a nice touch from Taya Valkyrie on this one. This match actually had some decent time, and it went in also into the next quarter-hour segment as well. So they went into the sixth part of the seventh quarter-hour segment of the show, because the main event, for Impact, went a little long, too, more than one quarter-hour segment. So over on, let's talk about what happened on Ring of Honor, kind of head-to-head with that Kozlov-Santino promo leading into the Coven match with Death Dolls. Trish Adora, Madison Rayne, not much meat to this bone. It was okay. There was another, I would call it glorified squash, or competitive squash. This was Matt Sydal and Christopher Daniels against the Outrunners. Not bad action in both of these matches. I probably would give Ring of Honor the nod on the sixth quarter hour with Trish Adora, Madison Rayne against the Kozlov segment with Santino, Joe Hendry, and all that, and the start of the Coven match with the Death Dolls. So I'll give Ring of Honor the nod on that one. That gives them 5 quarter-hour segments to only 1 for Impact. Sydal and Daniels and the Outrunners up against that Coven and Death Dolls. The big crux of that match, as well as the start of the main event, Bullet Club, Josh Alexander, Rich Swann, Kazarian. Also, an announcement in that 7th hour of Impact I want to mention. Impact's going live on the 30th of March. That's the same night as the New Japan Impact show. It's supposed to be kind of a lead-in to that show. And they're also going to be showing Kenta and Josh Alexander on that show. So it's like basically not this coming week on Impact, but the following week. Be a live pre-show kind of thing, mixed in with some taped stuff that they did in Vegas, I would guess, besides just the Josh Alexander match with Kenta. So interesting note on that. I will give Impact another nod for that Covenant and Death Dolls match, the crux of it, up against that Sydal and Daniels and Outrunners stuff. Aussie Open also came out to challenge Daniels and Sydal. I kind of think that's going to be a Supercard of Honor, but maybe they already taped it for Ring of Honor TV. It could be just as soon as next week, possibly, or the week after. Then we get to the main event battle, head-to-head. Bullet Club, this was Kenta, Ace Austin, Chris Bay, in there against Josh Alexander, Rich Swann, and Kazarian, up against the pure title main event on Ring of Honor, Yuta and Clark Connors. Wheeler Yuta, Clark Connors. A solid match over on Ring of Honor, but I do not think that it was as good as that 6-man over on Impact. So I got to give Impact another nod. So they got 3. Impact got 3 quarter hours, and Ring of Honor got 5. So just barely squeaking it out is this week's winner, Ring of Honor, this week's TV. Another big thing to mention at the end of Ring of Honor, which is probably the biggest thing to note of either of these shows this week, was the challenge by Wheeler Yuta after defeating Clark Connors, challenging at Supercard of Honor, presumably, in Los Angeles, Katsuyori Shibata. Shibata trains at the LA Dojo. He's the head trainer in Los Angeles, downtown LA. So I would guess that we're going to get that match at Supercard of Honor. Wheeler Yuta, Katsuyori Shibata for the Pure title? Hello. That's going to be awesome. That is going to be an awesome match. Let's just do a quick recap. Also, the main event of Impact. The Bullet Club did defeat the babyface team of Alexander, Swan, and Kazarian. Steve Macklin did a little bit of interference. He was just standing at ringside distracting Alexander, so he couldn't get the win. And from that point on, Bullet Club takes over. And I believe it was Swan that took the fall in that one, maybe by Chris Bay at the finish. So overall, both pretty decent main events this week, but Impact just got the nod on the main event. But for the whole show, Ring of Honor gets the nod this week as the winner of the weekly head-to-head battle of Versus. All right, everybody, we got another rant coming down tonight, or maybe a little bit into tomorrow morning, depending on what's going on. It will be laying the rant down. It will be looking back at all the insider news of the week. We're going to talk a little bit about what all happened in wrestling on Friday night, which a lot of stuff happened on not just SmackDown. Some stuff happened on Rampage. There was a lot of stuff happening also in New Japan. Something kind of big happened. And last night, GCW had a significant title change. I won't talk about it now. We'll get into it at the Laying the Rant Down rant coming up a little bit later this weekend as well. Stay tuned. Sunday, Ranch Respective again. WrestleMania 7 this time, right back from the LA Sports Arena as we are showcasing and looking back at all the WrestleManias in Southern California, leading in to the big one. WrestleMania Goes Hollywood, first part of April. All right, everybody, see you right back here, laying the rant down later on. See ya!